So welcome to this chance to have a discussion about the recruitment and retention survey that was run last year. We're lucky enough to have with us today Renata Weller from the British Equine Veterinary Association, Philip Lamette from the British Small Animal Veterinary Association, Ebony Escalona from Vets Stay Go Diversify, and Chris Tufnell from the RCVS. So our first question relates to the number of vets leaving the profession. So in the survey, we asked a question on whether or not the respondents were planning on leaving their job in the next 2 years. A proportion of them said they were, but out of that, less than 10% said they were planning on leaving the profession, which I think for some of us was a little bit surprising. Renata, did you have a take on that?
I think it was surprising in a good way for me. I expected to have much higher numbers, so there were a fair few anecdotal numbers being bandied around. And I think we're not doing too badly compared to, for example, a recent survey in GPs that showed that double that was planning to leave their job or retire in the next 2 years. And I'm not saying 10% is good. I think we should still try to reduce that, but it's certainly I expected a higher number.
Thank you, Chris. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree. I was pleased it was that figure. I think that some people have got confused over the last few years when the retention figures have come out, and actually they've quite often quoted the 50% disillusionment after 5 years, and felt that that's 50% of people leaving the profession after 5 years. And actually, you've just proved that isn't the case. I always have mixed feelings about that because I've championed for quite a long time now that actually there's roles for veterinary surgeons all across society. And so actually, I think sometimes people say they're leaving the profession and actually what they mean is they're leaving clinical practice, but they've probably got a really valuable role to play as a veterinary surgeon in another part of society. So I wasn't either alarmed or made feel sort of complacent by that figure. I felt that was probably, as Renata says, fairly balanced with other professions, I would have thought.
Thanks, Chris. Ebony, can I just ask you to tip the camera up a little bit so we can see all of your face? Perfect, thank you. So what do you think of those figures?
I was pleasantly surprised by those figures. Again, just like Renata, I thought they might have been higher. And Renata has alluded to, it was good to see that it's actually better than the GP profession. But I wonder actually if it's in keeping with other professions and other sectors. That would be something I would be interested to know more about. But just as Chris has said as well, I think we've got to be careful when we say, are they leaving? And a lot of people are also doing a combination of what I like to call stay versify. So they may still be actually helping within the clinical realms, but they may have moved their main roles across to a supporting role in the profession, which again still helps. So I think it's important to note where they're going and why.
Great, thank you. Philip, what's your take?
Well, I can only echo what the others have said. I was quite pleasantly surprised that it wasn't higher than that. I think we need to have comparative figures on other professions to see whether that is higher or lower than them. But I don't think it's a massive number of people leaving the profession. I think it's encouraging to see that it's not higher. There will always be people who want to go and branch out into other lines of work, and certainly there's transferable skills within the veterinary profession that allows them to do that, and we shouldn't necessarily stop that. So yes, it's quite encouraging.
Renata, you put this survey together, or you had a big hand in putting this survey together. We got good response numbers, so these are figures that are reasonably reliable, aren't they?
Well, I would have thought so. So we got over 5,000 people responding. Out of those 5,000, the results we are publishing as we speak are for UK participants only. So that's just a little bit more than 3,000 vets. and about 1,200 nurses as well, which we obviously split up, and we will discuss how it looks in the nursing profession on a separate occasion. But yeah, I would have thought it's relatively robust in terms of numbers. And I was absolutely overwhelmed by the response. I mean, this is certainly something that was very close to the heart of a lot of our the members of our profession. So I thought that showed that if you get such a fast and high response rate, I thought that was quite good.
And my reading of it, Chris, was that the 9.7% who are thinking of leaving the profession was 9.7% of the 45% who were considering changing jobs in the next 2 years. It wasn't an overall figure. Was that your reading of it?
Correct.
And does anyone, Ebony, do you have any idea about other professions? We've talked about the GP figures. I don't know how robust they were. Do you have any idea about other professions?
I don't, I'm afraid, but it's something that I'd be, very keen to look into. I think another question that also could be added in future is we get a lot of vets returning to clinics when they have left as well. So Vets Diversity has actually highlighted quite a few case studies of that, when people actually go out, do other things, bring back a lot more experience, and actually find that their heart lies back in that daily contact with vets, clients, and the profession.
Thank you. Has anyone got any further points on that vets leaving the profession rate? Philip?
I think it's a point in time that we have here. We don't actually know what it was like 5 years ago, whether it's an increasing number, whether it's a decreasing number. It'd be important, I think, to repeat this survey in a few years' time to see how that figure is moving as well. And as Ebony was saying, there's quite a lot of people who will be leaving the profession to have families or whatever, coming back again. So it'll be a movable feast. So I think it's important to get a period of time where we can judge whether this is getting to be a problem or not.
Thank you. Anyone else like to add anything to that subject? Renata?
I can probably give a quick overview of the recent study that has just literally about 3 weeks ago been published on GPs, which was done by the University of Warwickshire, and they've got 929 responses. And in their response rate, this is actually a repeat of a survey they've already done in 2014. So they have a comparison, which would be really neat if we could do that as well. So in 2014, they had 14% who were planning on either leaving the profession by just leaving or retiring. And that number had gone up by 4.2% to 18.2% this year, or last year, 2018, that was conducted. And so they saw an increase in number of people leaving. Now, I've read that study, and I would say there is a little bit of an age bias in there, which they acknowledge as well, because obviously the population they use got older, and they have a big number of people in there that are between 55 and 60. And obviously they're a little bit closer to retirement than younger people. So there is a bit of an age bias within that. They didn't split it up in retirement versus leaving the profession, so that one can't tease that out of the study. But certainly it looks like the number who want to leave in 2 years' time is double the number what we have. But our age distribution in the study was pretty much, I would say, it reflects the general working force in the UK. So it was a little bit less biased towards the end of work life population.
And Chris, the RCVS have asked not the same question, but similar questions in the past. Is there anything that you've read into previous responses to RCVS surveys in comparison to the response to this survey?
It's a few years now since we did the full manpower survey, and that's meant to be underway this year, actually. And so, no, I think as far as we understand, the situation's been moving so rapidly. I think one has to take these figures as being the most up to date at the moment. And they'll obviously be added to. And as Philip says, they are also, from the point of view of the questions and the way that the questions are responded to, it's very difficult to compare two surveys if the way the questions are asked is different. So I think we just have to take them on face value.
Thank you. So just in a word then, if we go round, is this a positive when you were looking at what this figure might be, is the result in your eyes a positive one or a negative one or a neutral one? Ebony.
Neutral.
Chris.
Yeah, I was more positive about these figures than I thought I might be.
Philip?
Yeah, I'm quite pleased that it wasn't worse. So yes, I'm quite happy.
And Renata?
I'm towards the positive side.
Great. Thank you all very much.